This is day one of 100 days of shift left. And today we're cracking open the first page of the book. And first chapter is about why do we even need data contracts within our industry? And first of all, to understand why, we understand the current problem. And that really points out to a classic data problem: garbage in, garbage out, the GIGO cycle. And if you talk to any data person, they'll pair that term: garbage in, garbage out, garbage in, garbage out. When I was a data scientist, that was a big thing. You throw any data into the model and you give bad data, you'll get bad results. It's a kind of idiom that everyone kind of agrees to. But how did we even really get there? I mean, the current state of data management, while it's exciting with all the different AI things and AI that and LM this, data's really bad at most companies. Talk to any data person, peek behind the curtains, and you're gonna see a 1,000-yard stare because they've just seen so many skeletons buried in their data lake. And to really think about it, it really comes down to a key thing called data debt, which we'll talk more about in day two. But the current state of data management is we're in a really reactive place. Most of the data we have is either coming from a third party and you're ingesting it, or is being created in the transactional database for your application. That's kind of the first place where it drives a lot of value for the business, is that data creation, many times like CRUD operations, or maybe it's the event streams, things along those lines. And then all that data is typically funneled through ETL or ELT or ETLT, whichever one you want to choose, into a data lakehouse for the most part. That's the very common thing. There's many different data architecture patterns going into there, but essentially you're going from transactional or some type of streaming data into a collected source that has all the data sources together. And that's where it starts to get messy. Before, data warehouses were a very well thought out thing, a huge implementation because it was on-prem. They really couldn't change it quickly. But now when you have cloud infrastructure, it's easy to spin up a database, throw data into there, and move on with your life. And many times people don't know what their data use case is. They know data is valuable, but they don't know how to leverage it. They don't know what the right questions to ask. And so it kind of evolves over time where it wasn't intentionally meant for data, but then becomes a huge data use case. And so that's how we kind of get into this position where we have a lot of garbage coming into the data, which is the first touch point for many data teams, but it's the last touch point for many data producers. And so we have this misaligned incentives happening. We have a world where data is just kind of chucked over the fence. And then on the other side, data teams are kind of forced to work magic. They do a lot of transformations, a lot of case win statements, or just deal with the pain of being very reactive. And this is the state of our current industry. It's not necessarily a bad thing, it's just the state of it. There were decisions made to prioritize speed of execution and just having the data available, and compute and storage is relatively cheap compared to what it used to is. So that's what we're dealing with. But my co-authors and I argue that that's changing quite a bit with the rise of data products, the rise of AI. Data is moving from just being this reactionary, looking backwards, hey, what's happening to the business, to now actually become products and revenue drivers themselves. A great example are recommendation engines. Big tech thoroughly validated how they can dominate the market with a strong machine learning algorithm. Now we have LLMs, which just commoditize these powerful models into an API call. Also, people are expecting data back into their product. And so data is in this moment where it's gaining a lot of notability, a lot of usefulness in the business, and we have to evolve our practices to account for this change. We'll get into more about these challenges in tomorrow for day two, where we talk about data debt. Remember, shift left.